Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for Spec Innovation's One Lifecycle, One Tool. Today we'll be discussing how to use Innoslate throughout the entire lifecycle of a system or product. We'll also be giving a preview of Innoslate 4.0 beta. But before we get started, let's go over some quick housekeeping. If you have any questions during the webinar, using the panel on the right, we'll make sure to answer your questions during the question and answer session. The webinar is being recorded, and we will make it available to you after the presentation. Now let me introduce you to your host, Dr. Stephen Dam. He is the president and founder of Spec Innovations. He has been involved with research, experiments, operations analysis, software development, systems engineering, and training for more than 40 years. Dr. Dam participated in the development of C4ISR Architecture Framework and DoD Architecture Framework, the Defense Airborne Reconnaissance Office Vision Architecture, the Business Enterprise Architecture, and Net-Centric Enterprise Services. He has also received an Expert Systems Engineering Professional Certification from NCOSE. Feel free to ask Dr. Dam any questions through the LinkedIn user group or send him an email. And now I'll hand over the controls and we'll get started.
Thanks, Elizabeth. So I want to make a quick announcement. For those who don't know, the Innoslate Beta 4.0 beta is available at cloud.innoslate.com. And some of the new features are things people have been asking for some time, so we're excited about having it available to you. So things like workflow, user-defined permissions, cross-project relations, and traceability assistant, which is my personal new favorite. Also, we're talking about some of the new interfaces, enhanced features, and I'll be using Innoslate 4.0 to actually demo what we're doing and discussing on the topic. So why one lifecycle, one tool? Well, I just recently saw a presentation where people used 5 different tools to do what we can do in one tool. The time it took them to do it was phenomenally long to me. I was very surprised, and I can't imagine what the cost really was. So it's very difficult to use even a suite of tools from a single vendor when they weren't really designed to interoperate and work correctly together in a flow, easy to use fashion. Particularly also that you start getting into problems with scalability, collaboration, things like that. So you really need that to be more productive in this environment we have today. And in the future, it's only going to get worse. So we need a better collaboration capability. We need to be able to save the time and money so we can do a better job, a higher quality job, and be seen as being more useful. So one lifecycle, most of you are familiar with the V model. It's just one of the many ways to just depict the acquisition lifecycle and, in fact, the entire lifecycle of any product. So starting at the beginning, one of the things you do is want to look at your documents and be able to capture documents and start building initial documentation as well. So that's our documents view. So that's new in 4.0, and we'll talk about each of these a little more in detail in a minute. The next area would be requirements. So you want to do requirements management, requirements analysis. So our requirements view provides that capability. So you go down further, you're going to do some modeling, and that modeling can be all kinds of different things. This is just showing a picture of an action diagram, but we have 27 other diagrams in the tool available today. So that gives you almost any way you need to look at the information and be able to depict it to different audiences. And of course, our CAD viewer, we have the ability to integrate with CAD and take the CAD objects and create assets from them if it's a .obj file. And then simulation, we have both discrete event and Monte Carlo simulation. So that's actually applicable to things you do in test and evaluation, but that can actually be applied very early in the life cycle as well. So it's something as you go through the development, you're going to use more and more. And of course, the test center itself, be able to capture the test plans and results, and then looking at them together to make sure that you've met the requirements and can demonstrate that you have met what the customer's needs are. And of course, you can use all this through the operational part of the life cycle and through disposal as well. So let's talk about each one a little bit different. And again, this is a little new to most of you, the documents view. And before we had different documents you could create up from the menu bar. This is actually a complete view now. It's looking at each different type of document. What's kind of neat about this is that you're not limited anymore to the set of document types we had. You can create any other document type you would like. All you have to do is give the artifact a label that has the word document in it. When you do that, then it will show up on this view, and you can work with it. So, for example, if you wanted to have interface control documents, and you just create that label, add it to whatever document you want to create, and build that document from within the tool. We're actually thinking that this is actually one of the best ways to get started is either importing a document, a source document you have, or start building your documents right here. I particularly am in favor of building my program plan and test plan right here in this view. Requirements management and analysis, of course, we have in the tool, and we've had that since very early in the tool. So if one of those is a requirements document, you'll be presented into requirements view. This gives you that view of it that you're probably more familiar with, the quality scores and rationale fields and things like that already set up for you. So that's actually a very powerful view. Has the baselining capabilities, the quality checker, all those things you're looking for to do not only requirements management, but requirements analysis. Of course, the modeling, I think our modeling capabilities are almost unparalleled in terms of not only being able to do the full SysML suite, but also we can do IDEF zeros and square charts. You can have I-square charts, just on and on. Some very neat, unique ones to type of things you draw, in fact, in PowerPoint, our layer diagram and the physical I/O diagrams. So all these different diagrams, they all work together. They're all independent. They all have the same data elements associated with it. So if you change a data element in one type of diagram and it's in another diagram, you just call up that diagram. That information is instantly changed to match what you changed in the other picture. So this is why you can never get yourself out of configuration control in your diagrams. That's actually one of the biggest problems I've seen over the years is people try to do this in drawing, and then keeping track and keeping that configuration management of the diagrams is very, very time consuming and error prone. And of course, when you're putting errors in at the early phases of the life cycle, we don't see the results of those till often very late in the life cycle, if not into actual operations. Our CAD viewer, again, is here available. You just upload the .obj file from your CAD drawing in as an artifact, and it automatically will give you this view and let you set the image. That's a little picture icon that will show up for it too. And then to create the assets will actually create independent physical objects within our database of that diagram. And then you can link them together. You can use it to navigate. You can then trace it back up to the higher level requirements and or functions that are required, so actions, as we call them. So all that comes together in one place, and it's a great way to start that kind of what we call vertical integration from the systems engineering space into the design engineering space. We're going to be doing much, much more of this in the future. Simulation, again, we have our discrete event and Monte Carlo simulator. They're all very powerful. And one of the things you're going to see in 4.0 is the speed increase. So a lot of these new capabilities come, and they're much, much faster than they were before. And of course, last but not least, is Test Center. And it's one of my favorite views also, which is the ability to capture the test cases. Now, test cases are a special class of action, which means that not only are you capturing test case, you can create a test process view of it as well. So you can actually model your test processes and put that as part of your test planning. If you capture your expected result early on, then you can see how it meets those criteria when you do the actual analysis and the work. And then, of course, you can see what the status is, and that status rolls up in a roll-up bar. So again, a very complete capability end-to-end to work through your life cycle. So again, our tool today, 3.9, has all these features. Okay, We just do them better in 4.0. We've got requirements view, the documents view, the quality checker, SysML, LML capabilities, DODAF as well, the Monte Carlo simulator, discrete event, the CAD viewer, the test center, test planning, test plans development, among other documentation, intelligence view, which I haven't touched on yet, but that's another very helpful technique in terms of understanding your modeling and are you doing the right kinds of things. It has 68 heuristics which represent best practices from many places, and so it's very powerful. Your commenting tool, so now you can do your model-based reviews you want to do, so all kinds of things like that, and of course chat and many other features to help you interact with your teammates and collaborate and really build a very complete model. So that's a very quick thumbnail of the one tool concept and why it's all connected together. By the way, if you see something you think we're missing, let us know. We're happy to add it in, as many people who will test. We do listen to our customers, and we are excited about your input and want to make you feel like this is your tool, not just ours. So let's now switch gears a little bit and talk about what 4.0 is all about. Our goal was to take this whole one cycle, one tool experience and improve upon it, make it better, faster, more powerful capability, particularly more analytical. So we think we've met our goal by dramatically and enhance the analytics and the speed of the tool. I think you'll be very impressed at the responsiveness of it. You'll feel like you're on a desktop piece of software, I think. There's a new complex program management features that are also requirements management features that have been asked for, so those have been added to the tool, and major improvements in even the commonly used features, things like the hierarchy diagram. You're going to love some of the changes that are happening there. So again, test it and try it out and see what you think. So again, what's new, specifically the fine-grained permissions, that's something everybody was asking for both requirements management and project management. Workflow is another cross between the two. This is where you can assign different roles to different people, and that they can have different responsibilities throughout the project and doing the right things that you need to be able to do as you go from a draft stage to an improved stage of a document, for example. Cross-project links, that's the ability to go between two different projects. We now have a new thing called the organization structure. So the organization projects can be shared within an organization. So that's a new capability as well. Traceability system I mentioned briefly. We'll have to see something more specific on that in a little bit. Customizable dashboard, you're going to love it. With the wikis and the charts and the pies and tables, it's very powerful. And a much simplified menu bar, because we did a lot of these kinds of things. And the database view with relationships and hierarchies, everybody's asked for that forever. We've wanted that forever. We've got it now. Documents view, of course, replacing the individual views for requirements and other documents. And then relationships tab on sidebars. So again, another thing people have been looking for ease of use and easy to understand the relationship side of it. And of course, more customizable reports. So again, the reports are all in each view, but you can customize them and adjust them to be what you need and how you want it to work. So new program management features, and again, these also double for requirements management features. Permissions. And permissions enable something called redaction. So you have the ability to not only include different things that people don't have permission to see. Okay, so that someone at other level does have permission, they can see it all in context in the whole document. If that happens, you don't have permission to see something, it shows up as these redaction bars. So you'll see that on the right there, they're graying out, just like somebody did put the black marker through the document like we used to do back in the old days. It's all like that with this. So again, those are then cross-project actual elements. They're in a different project. They don't have the permissions to see that information. Workflow, again, that's the ability to take any enumerated value in any class. Okay, so this is not just issues or requirements, which we already given you some ideas of how to set that up in the tool we've added status for both of those and the whole new issues class for that capability. But you can also do it with anything else. So if you want to track status on actions or assets or certain metrics and measures, you can do that with this as well. It works with any enumerated attribute. So that doesn't matter what you call it, status or something else. It can work with those enumerated attributes as you want to work with it. And those are all customizable for different permission levels. You can even have teams, and teams can be set up at the organizational level. So you can now have different teams to work with as well as individual users. So that's another capability within it to do that. You can even lock the entity after it's gone through a certain stage. So again, very, very powerful capability to do the kinds of workflow things you're looking for. I don't know any other tool that adds it at this capability across this many things. I think this is a very robust implementation of workflow. Cross-project relationships, again, we have that ability to communicate between the different projects. So now we have the ability to add things from different projects. And again, in the case if I don't have permissions to see it, it will show up as a redacted element. So here's an example of a spider diagram where that's occurring and the redacted boxes for the information. Traceability Assistant, as I mentioned, is one of my favorite new tools. This is something that's funny. I was actually thinking about this, and I went to my developers and said, hey, this would be really cool to do. And they said, oh, you mean like this? And they'd already been doing it. It was great. It's something I didn't anticipate, but it's, again, that application of the NLP technology, which is a branch of artificial intelligence, to actually read the information and compare between the different things that you're looking at. And again, this isn't just requirements traceability. This is traceability between any two things with any relationship you want. And you can do it in a query, a hierarchy. There's just all kinds of different ways to work with it and do this kind of work. So this is a very useful and powerful capability that lets you do things that you thought you could take days to do, and you do in a matter of minutes to hours. So another thing with that is also the suspect assist, which is looking for suspects. So if you've gone through and done it manually, it'll highlight the ones that it thinks, yeah, maybe you ought to relook at that. So that's, again, very, very useful and helpful. So enough of the talk. Let's get into actually seeing it in action. So, and by the way, we're going to do another 4.0 in-depth webinar in about a month, and just keep an eye on that as you go through. But I'm going to give you a quick look through this way, and then we'll leave plenty of time for questions. So this is the new dashboard, and you can see there's all kinds of widgets you can add. Bar charts, comment fields, pie charts, table, and table is extremely useful. You can save the panel as a project preference. Okay, so in other words, these are specific things you can make for each project and work through it. I've got some samples up here you can see at the end of the table. So here's one that's showing the different, just most recent top 10 requirements that have been changed. Again, I see that if I look at this, I can go in and see what am I looking for. The query was class of requirements, and the order was modified minus, which means the most latest. And then that's an easy, quick query to learn and use. And then you can add to these different things you want to see on it. You can add other columns, things like that, if you want to change it and adjust that as well. So again, very easy to use, very quick to set up. Here's an example, by the way, of using workflow where I've got a rejected and approved, in review status, draft status, and I can see what those things are. In some of these, let's see on the rejected ones, I have a couple rejected ones I did comments for, so there's a comment speed for that down here. And then other views, again, different ND ways to look at the number of entities, what do I have, and different types of entities. I can control all that. There's a wiki panel. So you put notes to yourself or your team as you need to. Our activity feed, is added the information about the change status. So here's a little bit of your history information is showing up now on this activity feed dashboard, so you can see what's going on, what was changed. Here exactly it changed from draft to rejected. So that tells you exactly what happened, who did it, when they did it. As you can see, I was just playing with this recently. And of course, remember the feedback form, please. This is where we get all the great ideas from you guys, and we get them directly to our developers. So feel free to do that anytime you want. You will also notice that the menu bar simplified tremendously. Very simply, you can pin as many things up as you want. Yay! Something we've all wanted. There's intelligence. Why there was the only thing missing. I didn't have up. So that's available now. Again, your chat capabilities here, and hi Chris. I guess Chris is on. And then of course your sharing capabilities are here now, and these roles can be changed too. Now we've added a role, different roles, and you can, as at an organizational level, develop what those roles are as well, and change project permissions as well. And then last but not least is the managed projects is simplified, has your latest ones you've been doing, not the big long laundry list. If you want to see all of them, you can still go over to managed projects, and they're here. So you get the whole thing to look back at. So that's again a very, very quick look at the big picture view of the dashboard. Let's explore that a little bit more. Very quickly, the workflow aspect of it. So if we click on this just to see, here is that workflow. So now it can let me go back to the draft stage once it's been rejected, and I can start once I have an update to it. How does that get set up? Everybody wonders, right? So it's over here in the schema editor. Come over to the schema editor, and you're familiar with our schema editor before. We had kind of a labels and a classes and a relationships editors, but now we've added in workflow. And what workflow does, and these are set up, and I've set it up for the requirement one specifically here, and you can see I can get permissions, so I can set up the permissions of whoever's here. Again, now in your organization, it'll tell you who's in your organization, so you don't have to guess, you don't have to figure out what their usernames are. It's right there for you. Notifications. Here's you can decide who you want to notify. You can lock it or unlock it afterwards. And then of course set the transition state, so you can adjust those as you need to work through the flow. And you can see that through the rest of this is all set up. So again, this takes a little bit of thought. Don't think this is an easy thing to do instantly, but once you get into using it, you'll find it's very easy to do it. You can always add another workflow class anytime you want. So if you say I want actions, you just add those to it, and and you got to look for the enumeration property. So here, classification, and we'll add that to it. And so now this can look for different classifications. So maybe I have different levels of classification I want to monitor and work through. So again, that's useful depending on what you're doing. So again, lots of things here for you to work through with the workflow and use it as you need to use it for what you're trying to do. Well, let's jump to documents view real quickly. And so here's the new documents view. So you see little pictures of each of the documents that are here and available. Again, that makes it a little easier for you to recognize what's there. I just have the 10 here, but if you have more, it'll show up with more than that. And you have multiple pages of these documents as well. You can use the search feature to find more documents. You, of course, can author a new document up here as well. So just a lot of different ways to interact and work with the documents. Let's take a look at one. So here's a document. Oh my, I didn't realize this, but there it was. There's something here that I don't have access to. Wow. I'll have to talk to one of my collaborators and find out what they're hiding from me. Or not. Hopefully I know. So that's one way to see it. So you see very quickly here where that comes into play. Let's take a look at something else with this. Let's take a look at the spider diagram associated with this. So there's that redacted element. it's giving me. So that's something here. So it's in a different project, so I don't have access to it. And yeah, I haven't been given access into that project, so that's why where the information is. So that could be things like cost. If you want to hide the cost information from somebody because they don't have a need to know, then that's what you do with that. Another one here that's kind of interesting is if you look here, there's another element here, and it's wow, it looks like something very different than the other things that are in here. The other ones in here are all kinds of requirements and other things, but this is something very different. So I want us to know what that is. I can go find out by clicking on it and moving go to it, but I'll just pop up that tab for it. It's actually a different item in a totally different project. So here I am in a totally different project, and it's showing me that piece of information. So again, this is how I did that. It's very simple to add new things anytime you want to. Come to add existing, create that cross project, and then choose the project you want. Here, this little wheel lets you choose the different kinds of projects that are available to me. If I wanted to look at that one, and then I would search that one for the information I'm looking for. So we'll do that. So that would be a way to show and create these cross-project relationships. I come back, save that, back to this, and refresh it. Add that to it. So here's that incurs the cost, and this was in this project, so that wasn't a problem, but now it's also here. So you can see how you can start using these in different ways to abstract different parts of the problem, different projects, let people work separately, and then bring them together as you need to in the master project. Remember, anytime you want a master project, that's the one you're going to want to share, have as the general sharing, hide them in other little projects to the side. That's a great way to work with that. So again, that gives you an idea of the cross-project relationships and the fine-grained permissions, which are here as well. So last but not least, I wanted to talk a little bit about is the whole traceability assistant. So you have now available to you a traceability matrix. So you can create the traceability matrix from anything. There's different queries, types, or hierarchy. So you can look at different hierarchies associated with it. And then you have the root entity in that situation, or you put a query, you could put in what you're looking for in terms of a particular class, requirements. I look at that, and I'm looking for relationships that are appropriate for that. And if it doesn't show up, that's okay, because that says that doesn't work. So let's take a look at one that is set up for that, where I've done a query. Here was my query was ordering by the class. I looked for a particular type here and traced it. Should trace to relationship. So here's that matrix, and now the matrix is kind of neat. If you hover over a particular cell, you can see that the definitions for those items are in the sidebar. Before you had to click on each one of them to get what the definition is. And I always found myself going back and forth and going, well, what'd that say again? What'd that say again? Now with this, I have the ability to, I can see it immediately as I'm going through. So that's a very good way to take a look and see what's going on. But that's hard. That's still pretty manual. So that's why we have that new traceability assistant. So the traceability assistant tells me where it sees there should be connections. And there are different levels of those connections. Like here's the lighter green, says it's probably a little less probability of being a correct one. By the way, one of the things you're going to find out very often is that you'll see things that say, well, those should be connected, but they're not, and they may not be because there's not enough of a description field been put in there for it to have the information in there to make those connections. So it's not being able to read that. Now there are a couple of X's outside that too. That's where our suspect assistant comes into play. Again, it can look at those and looks at the different levels of, you know, of amount of persistent, amount of potential connection between the two. So you can see how this can save a lot of time. The particular problem I was looking at a 200 by 200 matrix like this, trying to do it, and was quite concerned that if I was ever going to get it right. And when I looked at it with this traceability assistant, it found things I would never even thought of. And so this is a very valuable capability. Of course, if you don't want to see it, you just clear the assist, and it'll take that away for you. But you can start seeing how really valuable something like this can be, and huge time saver for you. So that was the major things I wanted to hit today, and so I want to go through and make sure I have plenty of time here for questions. And it looks like I left plenty of time. I got myself talking. So are there any questions so far, Elizabeth?
Thanks, Dr. Dam. We have a few questions already. If you'd like to ask us a question, please use the panel on the right. Our first question is, do workflows support alternate paths?
Yes, I think so. I think you can basically kind of set up any kind of network you want with it. You might want to model it first in something. We do have our state transition diagram modeling. We don't have that connected to the workflow at this point in time, but that's a way to look at it and look at different possible paths and associations with it. I think the answer to that's yes.
All right, our next question is, regarding roles, can a user be associated with multiple roles?
Oh, yes, and they can be on teams as well, so yes, absolutely.
Could you show us what that would look like?
I don't really have access to that for this one. I think I'll put that off until the next webinar when we're going to get into the details of particularly the organization view and things like that as well. So let me put that off till next time. Or we can always do a sidebar with anybody if they'd like to have a particular demo.
Thank you. Our next question is access to the schema editor also controlled by project permissions?
Yes, it is. I believe that's part of the permission set that's available to the users, to the organizer, I'm sorry, so at the administrative level.
Our next question, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Our next question is, are there any plans to call up the CAD drawings directly from a PLM tool?
So there is something we want to look into those kinds of things. One of the things, of course, is most of these PLM tools are not cloud-based, so they're still desktop-based software. So it's the APIs, how does that work, and having it available. We certainly can talk to people about doing that and figure out how to do that integration. We are looking to look at specific integrations like that across a whole variety of design engineering tools.
All right, well, thank you. We have another question. Could you show us the customizable reports?
Oh, sure. So let's go to this view here. And so one of the reports here, report types you have are like the entity table. An entity table, it has the ability to look at freezing panes, roll-ups, and all kinds of different things. You put in the file name. You go ahead and add attributes as you need to, adjusting to those. Notice sometimes you're going to see something like status, and they'll show up several different options for status. So you make sure you pick the right one, the one you want to see when you're looking for it. Also, if you can then also add related columns, and so add those kind of relationships and its information as well, and create all those kinds of things. I don't have a great canned example to show you, but that's the kind of ability you have now in the tool to adjust to those things. And as before, the reports have all been rewritten, I should also say. There's a lot of work that's been gone into those, but you still have a small set of things to choose from in each view. So they are tailored for each view for what you should need for that view. If you need something more, again, there are ways to use the APIs to create your own specialized reports, and also we can provide that service as well. We're always happy to do that.
Our next question is, when will this update be available for everyone?
So 4.0 beta is available today. This is I'm on the cloud version today. It's open to everybody to use, and you're welcome to use it and work with it. When we go to the actual final version, we will just be changing the URL address, but you will have access to all your data. So feel free to start using it now. And that way, so you can start migrating your 3.9 things into 4.0. Again, right now you do have to do that from an export from 3.9 and import using the import analyzer in Innoslate. If you're using the enterprise version, there is a .ino file as well as the XML available to you. So again, two different file formats you could bring import from 3.9 to 4.0.
Our next question is, when will the documentation for Innoslate 4.0 be available?
Okay, so most of the documentation is here today. You can go to the document here and do it from here. It'll take you right to the documentation center that you're looking for. There's a user's guide. That is one of the quickest ways I can show you. That's the new dashboards. The organizational dashboard, for example, is here. It discusses that. So again, a lot of information about it. There are videos being developed, and some of those will be available very soon. So as we continue with the beta test period, we'll be continuing to improve this documentation. I think most of it's here now, but there's still more to be done, as always. It seems like.
Thank you. Is 4.0 on the NSERC server? If not, any idea when it will be there?
So no, it's not on NSERC yet, and that's because one of the things that we don't have in 4.0 is the DODAF dashboard. There's a reason we don't have the DODAF dashboard. It's because we want to upgrade it to significantly, and we're looking to see if we can't do UAF, the Unified Architecture Framework, as well. So some of those upgrades were something that couldn't make this 4.0 cut, and so we're going to make that 4.1. That's when we will probably, when it's enterprise ready, we will then migrate that to NSERC, and I believe the time frame is, oh gosh, late summer, early fall, I believe is our current timeline with them. We had a meeting with them just fairly recently where we discussed this with them. They seemed to think that was a good way to handle it. And by the way, there will be an overlap time between 3.9 being available and 4.0 being available on both systems. So we were able to negotiate that as well. So both on the cloud and on places like NSERC, we're making sure they can stand up both capabilities and no extra cost to you.
Thank you. Can a user extend the intelligence options?
Not currently, but that's something we have talked about doing in the future. You can certainly tailor them and tailor them down and not have to deal with them all, and also or highlight ones you think are critical versus ones that aren't. But yeah, we don't currently enable that capability. It is something we've talked about a lot. So again, if you have ideas for heuristics you think we're missing, we're happy to add those as well. That's another way to handle that. That might be even faster and better, and of course cheaper for you if we just do it for you. So again, let us know if there's something that you think the whole community could benefit from in that regard.
Would you be able to demonstrate the intelligence view?
Oh, sure. So intelligence is here. And so it goes through, does an analysis looking for these different heuristics, so things like entities with a similar name. So it's trying to help you reduce duplication. So there's multiple things with the same or similar names. It's going to find it. One of my favorites is the fact that it doesn't have to be exactly the same name. it recognizes wildfire and wildfires are essentially the same element. When you click on it, it'll take you right to the object, back to it, and then you can come and look at the fix suggestion. So there's a fix. So it tells you what you can do to fix it. It'll actually help you merge, in this case, the two together if that's appropriate. I leave some of these in just for fun. But some of these ones are simple things like the names don't begin with a capital letter. These are little things. You may decide, hey, that's really not important. If you decide it isn't, you can go to settings and adjust the settings and look at the different warnings. And you can say it's a warning. You can ignore all of them, or say that's an error. That's okay. Everything's important. Okay. So again, there's a lot here already. If you've got something else that we could be looking for or should be looking for, you think that we're missing, please let us know, because we want to make sure we add those anyway for the whole community.
Our next question is, does Spec Innovations plan to have a demo on the DODAF dashboard changes implemented in 4.1?
Yes, we'll have all those available to you, and we'll go through and go through this in more detail. In fact, I think we may have a series of webinars after this to go through, because there's so many new changes and features and improvements that we'll probably have to do this as a series. It probably can't be done in one session. Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I just heard the question. So really I was talking about the DODAF dashboard 4.1. Absolutely. We'll have a whole another webinar on that and demo for that. Absolutely. Yeah. Again, we've been waiting to find out a little bit more about UAF and how hard that was going to be to map to it. It doesn't look that hard. They have really only 11 diagram types in UAF. That's what it looks like, my reading of it. And so, which is the columns basically are different diagram types. And so that's pretty straightforward mapping, what we already have in the what we are planning to do upgrade-wise for DODAF itself. So.
Our next question is, could you please demo the CAD viewer? I cannot find it in cloud.innoslate.com.
Oh, sure. Because so what you want to do is go, and I have an example here to find it very quickly. So let me take a look at CAD now. So here I have a couple of them, and what it is it's very simple. If you open up the actual view, you'll see here that you have an upload button of the artifact. As soon as you upload the artifact and it sees it's a CAD file, a .obj or a .stl file, it then does that for you automatically, and then it'll add this new button about View CAD. And so when you want to view the CAD itself, then you can look at the diagrams. So, and you can see I'm adjusting the size here. I can spin it and turn it as I need to. I can set the image, so I can change the image that's over here on the left-hand panel as well. So all that's from here. I can create assets from it. That's already been done. So those are the different groups that were here. In fact, is how it comes out. So that actually, if I want to link to that, it's here. Here it is. So here's where it was captured. Unfortunately, they didn't give it a very good name. They did group. So let me go back to database view. Look at the shuttle. A little better example. And so here's the view the CAD here. Same thing. Assets. But here now it had better names for things like the tail. We look at the tail assembly and have information with the tail assembly, and then have it come together there as well. One thing I didn't show you, but I will while I'm here, is if you notice now when you click on an entity in database view, that relationships tab is available as well. So you can find that same information was over here. That's another way to look at it. And don't forget the commenting feature. The commenting, after you add comments now, has the ability to have the ability to check it to see if it's resolved or not. So if I say it's resolved, this could show resolved and hide resolved. So that way, you're only seeing the things that are there. So if you get a big long train of comments, which we were finding happened, then this is a way to resolve them and then move forward and only see the comments that are most urgent and most recent. Anything else?
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Dam. That's all the questions that we've received so far. If anyone thinks of any questions afterwards, of course, feel free to contact us. We're always available through support. And we would like to thank you again for joining us today. As a reminder, we'll be following up with you very soon to send you a link to the recording and the presentation slide deck. We would also like to invite you to our next webinar, Welcome to Innoslate 4.0. We also encourage you to visit our website and our blog, as well as connect with us on social media. That concludes today's presentation. Thank you again for your attendance, and we hope to see you again at our next webinar. Please enjoy the rest of your day.